Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
You need to watch this.
The Earth is being put into a countdown collapse right now. Globalists have gone from testing phase into full operational now. And they say, read their writings, we are going to have a post-industrial world by 2030. We will have no personal cars by 2030. You will be eating bugs by 2030. And we will start the depopulation of 90% of the people by 2045. That is the official WF, official UN, official Club of Rome plan.
It's funny how these organizations like the World Economic Forum will come right out in the open and say that they want to start working on global depopulation. Yet when you hear it from the mouth of Alex Jones, it sounds like the ramblings of a lunatic. I feel like we're at a breaking point with the World Economic Forum. They're about to have complete and total control in just a matter of weeks if we don't retake our country with this next election. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I think we all know who our only chance at salvation is. Get out and vote. Even if you're in a state where you feel like it doesn't matter, we need to send a message that the majority does not agree with their view and is not going to put up with this anti-human crap.
Panelists, what percent of our atmosphere is CO2?
Repeat that question.
What percent of our atmosphere is CO2, carbon dioxide?
About 5%.
5?
We'll go 7.
I'll see their 5 and suggest that we know that transportation causes 49% of CO2, so that's why we're all working on energy transition.
All right. So what number do you think it is?
5.
5? Do you have one, Mr. Boyd?
So we got a 5, 7, 8. I'm going to get the high end.
All right. The answer is 0.04%. Not 1%, not a half of a percent. 0.04%. It's gone up from 0.03 in the last couple of decades. This is what we're being all contorted into doing, is this tiny change in CO2. If we get below 0.02, plant life starts dying.
It's hilarious how all these experts who sit there and tell you how you need to adjust your life in order to save the planet can't even tell you how much carbon is in the atmosphere while yelling at you that there's too much carbon in the atmosphere. They don't have a clue what they're talking about. They're all just a bunch of sheep doing what they were told without doing any research and spreading the same lies that they bought into, all in an effort to get us to spend billions and billions of dollars to solve a problem that doesn't even exist.
So yeah, we can put fungus in a robot body and then teach it how to operate it, but did you know that they have a language and the average fungus knows about 50 words? That language involves grammar. This research group decided to figure out what those little electrical impulses that fungus are making means. They were really surprised to find out that they were conversing. Fungi act pretty similar to the way neurons do. They interconnect and share electrical signals, and yeah, that is the fungal living robot skin some researchers made. This is also why both the brain organoids and fungus can operate a robot. Fungi live in connected colonies that can span thousands of miles, but no one entirely understands why they're interconnected. Turns out they're talking to each other. So they measured the millivolts and then listened to the fungus talk back and forth. What they found looked kind of similar to Morse code, except it's much more complicated. They're able to parse out that they were speaking. However, what these things mean, we don't know. This tells me that they probably do have the capacity to learn language. We could probably teach them similarly to how we taught the brain organoids language. We could hook them up to AI and have it train. Then give them the benefit of maybe not being in the light that they hate so much if they do it right. Feed me, Seymour! Now, we did teach them to use their bodies by irritating them enough to move. I think they would probably say, hey, what the dude, quit it.
I just thought this was interesting. That's one of the largest and longest living organisms in the world, and we just discovered that it has its own language. And with the use of AI, we may actually one day be able to decode that language and communicate with the fungi. I can't even begin to imagine what kind of information we could derive from something like that, but it would be absolutely fascinating.
They told me they were making a hybrid race.
And for what?
They didn't want, I wanted to know for what, but they never gave an inkling of what it was for, of what this hybrid race would be doing, where it would be, or what. My grandfather died in 1940, so this was in the 1930s when these things were happening with them. She said they would be sitting on the side porch at night, and they would see lights over the oil wells. And a lot of times they would see what they thought were little children dressed in white running around the oil wells. And on several times they saw it in the daytime. They would see these little children dressed in white. And once or twice they got up to go see if they could catch the little children and find out who they were, and they would start out, but by the time they would get there, the children would be gone. Their main concept was creating a hybrid breed. At least that's what they told me, that they were trying to create a race of people that could live in our atmosphere and in their atmosphere. And they had not yet produced that person. Now, on another occasion, I remembered being shown a baby that really favored my grandson a lot. If you would, give it the slant eyes, they weren't as big as their eyes, but it looked human. And I knew that this was my child, and I wanted to take that child with me, but they said that it would not be able to live in this atmosphere. It's not really a frightening experience. It's just, it happens, and it doesn't leave you frightened. I think the thing that frightened me the most was that I was not consciously aware of what had happened, and I did not know what to put these ships with. I didn't have anything concrete to say, well, they're coming to do this or that. I just had the frightening feeling. And after I found out what had happened, I was at peace with what had happened, knowing that there's nothing that I can do about it, because I cannot stop them. Nobody can stop them from doing what they want to do. Nobody on this earth. Because they are too far advanced mentally and technologically for, we don't have a defense at all.
But they do that too.
Yeah, they could come in today and take over if that was their desire. But like I said, I don't feel that it's their desire to take over through violence, and they don't care about governments. See, government control is not their thing. They want bodies, and they want minds that are going to do what they want the minds to do, but they need the bodies to do whatever it is with. And that's where we come in.
I'm interested to know what y'all's thoughts are on this one. I have a difficult time determining whether or not some of these abduction stories are legitimate sounding or not, but the way this lady's speaking makes me feel like at the very least she believes that what she's telling you is the truth. When she talks about that baby alien looking like her grandson, it looks like she's speaking from memory and not something that she made up. It almost seemed like she came to that realization as she was remembering what the alien baby looked like. That's just the impression that I get. What are y'all's thoughts?
This is the reason I don't eat Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel is one of the things that I have never eaten in my life. I'm 43 years old and I never once stepped foot into a Cracker Barrel. And I never ate anything made by Cracker Barrel. You see this guy right here, okay? Old white man represents the cracker. White men were called crackers because of the sound their whip made. The barrel represents the barrels that the slaves were forced to bathe in. So you got a slave owner and what they made the slaves bathe in, the cracker and the barrel, and people will be like, oh no, that's not true. So then explain this. If you look at the word cracker, right there, that right there is the handle of a whip. And that is the whip that comes and wraps around it. That's the whip handle, and that's where the whip starts and wraps around. It's literally a racist business. That's what Cracker Barrel stands for.
I stopped eating Cracker Barrel because everything on their menu is just brown stuff. No matter what you eat, it's just a big plate of deep fried brown. That can't be healthy. I'm curious though, how did they make it through the Summer of Love riots when all these statues are being torn down and all these football teams are having to rename themselves because of all the lunatics crying out racism? How in the world did this not get attacked if it's true? I'm not typically someone who supports name changes over societal shifts, but this one's a bit over the top. If this is really where this logo comes from, that is blatant, open racism. I'm just curious what their claim is to what that logo represents.
I think it was SpaceX. Here, I call this the Tupac rocket. Here it is. And this one went up and the top half of the rocket disappeared. And if you look at this, it goes off. There's a bunch of smoke blown out of the ground. And then this thing is going up and this little flame is lifting up this, 100 tons of weight, right? Where's the thrust? But this one, when it went up, there was a little glitch and all of a sudden you'll see the top half of the rocket will disappear. Okay. And after we saw this, I think it was after we saw this one, we were looking at some, I think, Google Earth pictures of NASA's, launch pad. And we found these weird spotlights and we zoomed in on them and we were able to get it was either a name or a serial number or something. And we Googled it and we found out it's from a holographic projection company. A holographic projection company.
I honestly think that just looks like an artifact in the video, that the footage got corrupted during compression or something. The entire sky appears to be cut off. I will say this though, if they want us to believe them when they're firing off these rockets, why are they hiring all these CGI companies to help with the launch? At the very least, they're giving everyone who's suspicious of them plausible deniability. Why not just give us the unedited video and photos from these space missions and these rocket launches? Hey, if you're enjoying this video and you like this type of content, I post a new one just like it every day, Monday through Friday. It'd be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me. Also, don't forget to check out my merch store at www.barry-stepp.com.
You guys want to hear about the Bigfoot War of 1855?
What? Yes.
Started with the Choctaw Native Americans and the farmers in this region of Oklahoma. They noticed that a lot of food and supplies were missing from their camps, from their homes, from their farms. And so they're like, what in the world is taking our stuff? They didn't think much of it, but it continued to get worse and worse and worse until women and children started being kidnapped. And it got to a point that the Choctaws set up a hunting party, and it was led by a man named Joshua LaFleur. But with this party, there was a Choctaw warrior. His name was Hamas Tubby. But him and his 6 sons, and this is what's crazy about this, were all over 7 feet tall.
Hold on.
And they weighed 300 pounds or more. They were called the Light Horsemen because they were such good warriors on horseback, even with their stature and size.
That's awesome.
They rode for a full day to this forest, pulled out his little spyglass thing, saw something, and he ordered the entire hunting party to charge. So they charged into the woods, and they saw these creatures. They describe them as ape-like creatures scurry into the woods, and 3 of them stayed behind, and they attacked. They swung, instantly killed the horse, broke its neck, and then Joshua LaFleur ran up. Creature grabbed his neck and instantly ripped his head off of his body.
Oh my God. Where's the movie for this?
Dude,
what? We need this movie.
I thought this was interesting for a couple of reasons. For one, I've actually never heard of this before, and there's a ton of information about it online. But the second reason I put this in here was that depiction of those Native American warriors. 7 foot tall and weighing over 300 pounds each. This sounds like the descendants of giants. I just thought it was interesting how a story about a bunch of people fighting off a horde of Bigfoots actually helps to prove the theory that there was a race of giant Native Americans living in the United States. A race of giants that we were told never existed. If that's the size of the guys that we have on record, then the huge skeletal remains that we've found of Native American giants doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore.
I'd actually never heard about any of the odd edifices and symbolism to be found at the Hoover Dam until I actually happened to visit there myself about 3 years ago and saw the 2 giant angel statues and the star map and zodiac made out of stonework on the ground. I instantly knew it was something I was going to have to go home and look into some more. The elements of Freemasonic symbolism, the idea of there being some sort of false flag attack planned, how the destruction of the dam appears to be portrayed on one of the U.S. bills, and Things like the fact that the shape of the dam is almost identical to the throne that Madonna sat on in her infamous Illuminati Super Bowl performance there, where it shows Alcyone of the constellation Pleiades. In the movie Pixels, there's a somewhat random line from someone mentioning the, quote, pyramid hidden under the Hoover Dam. And then, of course, there's the movie Transformers showing the Allspark being hidden in a secret facility under the dam. But okay, a Stargate. What does that even really mean? Especially if we're not talking about the sort of, ancient aliens type technological device from the... We're talking about Stargates here in the context of witchcraft and the occult. And honestly, it's kind of interesting to me that in none of the other videos or posts I've read on the occult New World Order connections to Hoover Dam, I've yet to see any of them that have explored the occult connections to the specific star featured on the Hoover Dam star map. First of all, it's interesting to note that there actually is an Alcyone Lodge, and this other guy, Ledbetter, were somehow led by their spirit guides to select this kid, basically, a 14-year-old Brahmin from India named Jiddu Krishnamurti, as the next Maitreya or Messiah of the New Age. And this guy, Krishnamurti, went by the name of, you guessed it, Alcyone, and he wrote a book called At the Feet of the Master, which he openly claimed were not his own words, but the words of the master who taught him. Now, when examining the monument erected to supposedly commemorate the men who died in the construction of Hoover Dam, many people have spent a lot of time trying to tease out esoteric meaning from the rather Egyptian-looking figure there, and what perhaps is being represented by the water and the sun and everything else. And it's real easy to get lost in the minutia of all that, but that type of message from the whole basic theme of sacrifice itself in the inscription. But when you step back and just look at everything that was chosen to be incorporated into a memorial, then it's really just bizarre. Is the context and the concept through which I believe that the Hoover Dam and all the weird occult imagery and references to stars and angels and weird-looking portal designs in the floors and everything else makes the most sense to be interpreted through. Not in the sense that it's some secret doomsday machine or interdimensional portal device, although it is a machine. I mean, it's a functioning hydroelectric dam. It's an altar, a massive monolith dedicated to the star god Alcyone, and hidden in plain sight. I mean, it's crawling with oblivious tourists, just like so many other sites which are built and dedicated as memorials, even little Illuminati monument sacrifice that was performed in that place.
So if the theory is that there's a Stargate below the Hoover Dam, think about this. If Stargates are real, and that's how they travel on and off of our planet, maybe that would explain why we haven't gotten any video footage of anything entering or leaving our atmosphere. And maybe they're trapped here because we've secured all the Stargates. They no longer have access to them. This would explain the theory of them being trapped here with us due to the Van Allen radiation belt, but would also explain how they got here in the first place. I just think that's an interesting idea to think about. I'm not convinced that we have Stargates yet, but if we did, it would sure explain a lot.
Let's talk about uncontacted peoples for a moment. Please stick with me because I really want to hear your thoughts. This is something I was just thinking about at the gym today, but these are pictures of uncontacted peoples, also known as uncontacted tribes, uncontacted groups. Who are they? Well, like the name says, they are uncontacted. They do not know the modern world. There's a map that shows all the countries that have uncontacted groups of people. This map right here, the red dots identify locations where we know these uncontacted tribes exist. We actively try to keep these tribes uncontacted. We want it to remain that way, and there's many reasons for that. One of the big reasons is the risk that it imposes, and this is explained through the story of John Cho. He was a missionary that felt called to go bring the gospel to the people of North Sentinel Island, and unfortunately it cost him his life. In contacting uncontacted peoples, there's a lot of risk. We could bring disease, we could bring death to them. They could be violent, they don't know us, they could bring death to us. What gives us the right to disrupt their way of life? Yada, yada, yada. So there's a lot of reasons. Hear me out on this. What if Earth is just a group of uncontacted peoples? What if the fact that we don't see any life outside of us is because we're not meant to? They are perfectly aware of us, even though we are unaware of them. Now, if you've ever looked into extraterrestrial life, you've heard of the Fermi paradox, the contradiction between the high likelihood of emergence of ET intelligence, but also the lack of evidence. Paradox in its broad forms is, why has the Earth not been visited, and why is there no evidence for extraterrestrial intelligence at all? But here's my question. This no evidence comes from a very Earth-centered perspective. One could say that these uncontacted tribes would say there is no evidence of modern life outside of them because they are uncontacted. But does that mean the evidence that you and we don't exist? No. Now, pictures like this are very controversial. They are drones that captured pictures of these uncontacted peoples. You know these guys were just like, what the hell is that? We've never seen that before. They have no concept of modern technology. To us, they live in a very archaic form. What if we are those living in a very archaic form when it comes to the universe? What if there is a danger that we pose that keeps us uncontacted, constantly monitored in a petri dish so that we remain uncontacted? I just think it's really interesting because a lot of times people will say there is no evidence of alien life. But my question is, just because we can't perceive the evidence, does that mean that evidence doesn't exist? Do we have to observe it to make it real? Or do we not see anything because it is by design and we are the uncontacted peoples? Let me know what you think, but I don't know, it's just a fun little thought experiment to get you out of your egocentric perspective.
This one makes perfect sense when you take into account the fact that we have someone or something flying around overhead completely aware of us down on the ground, and we have no idea who or what it is. Clearly, they know about us, and we don't know about them. I'm just not convinced yet that it's something from off-planet. It seems like it has a pretty constant presence here. We get new UFO videos basically every day, so it would only make sense to assume that they're here on a full-time basis. And since we haven't yet detected anything leaving or entering our atmosphere, you would have to assume that they were either already here, and have been for a long time, or we just simply have no way of detecting or picking them up on our radars when they're leaving or entering the atmosphere, which wouldn't make any sense because they don't seem to be trying to hide themselves when they're down here in low Earth orbit.
So even though the Earth is a globe, we've always had the same 12 star constellations that rotate counterclockwise around North Star Polaris and do not change. This has been the same thing for thousands and thousands of years. Since the beginning of time, since the beginning of recorded history, we have had the same 12 astrological signs. So even though the Earth is a globe zipping through space at 1,000,000 miles an hour, we still have the beauty of these structures, these ancient structures built thousands of years ago, some hundreds of years ago, and they still align with the sun, its solstices, and its equinoxes. How is this possible if the Earth is a globe? Does this make any sense to you? It would only make sense that the sun is moving over our flat plane and that it doesn't change. We're not drifting away from the sun. We're not zipping through space. The sun is not a big ball of gas and fire. It's a local luminary designed for us by God to shine light on this realm. Of course, even though all these structures align, this is satire and complete...
Alright, I'm finally convinced the Earth is a ball. Clearly, they're hiding something about the Earth, but it's not that it's flat. I just don't see how the Earth could be flat based off this guy's own perception. Yes, we do see the same constellations in the sky, but if you're on the other side of the planet, you're going to see them in a different orientation. Therefore, if you have a different night sky, it's because you have a different perspective, unless the sky is different. The Earth can't be flat. But how do we have the same night sky on one side of the sun as we do 6 months later facing the other direction at night? That doesn't make any sense.
She is currently undergoing legal procedures after being tricked into buying a haunted house. And in the meantime, she has no choice but to stay there until it's all over. One day, she was testing out a video projector that she planned to give to her children, when all of a sudden she hears some creepy sound emanating from within the fireplace, and decides to pray. But the prayer only makes things worse. Watch closely.
Celui qui demeure sous la paix du triomphe, repose en nom puissant. Je tire le
All sorts of crazy things start happening right after she tries to pray. She says that she began to feel struck with paralysis, and her body started to burn. And it was so bad she had to cut the video short because it got too aggressive to show. Rosanna still has no idea as to what is causing all the activity inside the house. And without further answers, this one remains a mystery.
Here's all I've got to say about this one. How was the room so well put together, and then all of this happens at just the right moment when she already has her phone out recording? If this place was as haunted as it appears in that video, I don't feel like she would have been able to place that furniture where it was to begin with. I honestly just feel like this was too overdone to make it believable.
Probably not public information yet, but who's the person that's number one on that invitation list?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
And I can get on that list,
Yes,
right?
without a doubt, you are invited.
That is so generous of you. Cheers to that.
See you at the White.
Looks like Leo is going to have some serious explaining to do. He's already suspicious in my eyes. With his extreme age gap requirements for girlfriends, now it comes out that he was the first guest at the top of the list for the Diddy white parties. That's not looking good, Mr. DiCaprio.
Diddy's got tunnels underneath his house.
No.
5 tunnels leading to 5 other houses in that area.
What houses?
Someone said Michael Jackson's old house.
Believe it.
Saw that photo, how
Blindly.
close he was to a port.
Because he's getting
To a
linked.
port?
He's getting linked to crimes that involved
shipping
containers.
It's a shipping yard.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're buying a house that big, why do you want a shipping yard in the background if you're not doing something in that shipping yard?
Maybe he was just a huge investor in baby oil.
Maybe.
He needed to have his eyes on the
product.
on the product at all times.
Baby,
Psych, he did
oils.
really bad things.
Yep. This is the biggest sexual assault lawsuit ever to exist in American history. Like,
Dude,
this
I
is-
love it.
It's
I don't love it. I love that. I hate.
Love it. We're breaking records.
I hate this. What I love is that it's coming to light.
Yes,
I was
absolutely.
waiting for you to go back into a gaslight.
I need to start working on my eggshells with you guys.
You bring your own eggshells with you?
She's open her socks. She's always walking on eggs.
I didn't know about this, that Diddy's house was right next to a shipping yard. The implications there are massive. What in the world was he involved in that required him to be that close to a shipping container yard? He was either looking for an easy escape route when crap hit the fan, or he was involved in some stuff that's going to make these sexual assault allegations look like misdemeanor offenses by comparison. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're almost to 100,000. Probably hit it within the next couple of days. Also, don't forget to check out www.barry-stepp.com if you'd like to order yourself a shirt or a hat or a hoodie. And don't forget to post your photos of your merch over in the Discord to get your photo in a video. But with all that out of the way, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow.